So I just wanted to do a quick follow-up to the Animism video I did recently, and I just wanted to mention that, well, it occurred to me that we used to give names to things quite a bit, and actually I still do here and there. The thing I was thinking about was the warrior and his or her sword, and always it had a name. And that was because they saw life in the sword. Life in the object, again, as I mentioned before. If you have a car, then you might well give that car a name. If you have anything that you're fond of, an object you use, you might well give it a name. I tend to give things names because, I don't know, it sort of animates them, and there's this strange feeling that you feel as if they will give something back to you if you give them a name and if you treat them with respect. That is a very ancient thing to do. Of course, we don't do that with everything, absolutely everything we have in our lives, but the names of things is something that is particularly important, especially for warriors, and that's why when a warrior died, he or she either died with their sword attached to them in their hand, or often things were broken apart in most ancient times because they didn't want the life to revive itself if somebody else got hold of that sword or that thing that belonged to that person, because it is imbued with their life and you didn't want it to come back to life again. It should die with them. Say break things apart when somebody dies, that also has serious consequences if we don't do that, in ancient terms anyway, because it means that part of the person's spirit will transfer into the object as it was when they were alive, and it could mean that that person could maybe not move on after death and could return to Earth and haunt everybody and become the mullah or a zombie or something that nobody wants to have around. So that was another aspect that was important to ritualise and observe, and that is why many of the Romany gypsies used to destroy things, destroy the person's things, drinking cup, set fire to the wagon. It's because the spirit of the person must be free to travel on in the other world. There is, of course, the other side of it with naming, that if you name things too much, then you might render those things vulnerable to some sort of attack, because if somebody knows your name, they can use it in a spell and repeat it over and over again, and you might be threatened. Also, if people had the same name as each other, then that wasn't very good. That's how surnames came about, because people in tribes, expanding tribes, people in communities suddenly had similar names. So it was difficult if you had several people called John. So you had to say, what was John? What did John do as a craft to distinguish him from the other John who might live nearby, and several other Johns who might live nearby. But yeah, naming is a lot to do with the animistic craft, and one has to be careful when naming, and also when one does name, it offers respect. So you see, there is quite a fine balance to find with these things. So I suppose the idea in ancient times is if you named something, if you named your sword, then you didn't bandy that about for all to hear, unless you wanted them to know how powerful you were as a warrior, and that usually took place more in the Bronze Age. But prior to that, it might be a different case. It might be that you named something and everyone else respected it, but there's a reason why we name things, not just to identify somebody, but in earlier times it was to offer the respect to the spirit in that object. Anyway, thank you for listening again, and it's just a little bit added to the animism question. It's a big area, isn't it? But thanks for listening, and I'll talk again soon.